South Africa's history of evictions dates as far back as 1856, and they became more frequent and violent with the introduction of the 1950 Group Areas Act, which determined where and when Africans could reside or work. To entrench the commitment to protect the property and peaceful lives of white citizens, the ruling National Party also introduced, among others, the Prevention of Illegal Squatting Act and the amendment of the Black Urban Areas Act, which permitted blacks in urban areas for only 72 hours without a permit, except if they were born or continuously employed in the area. It also consolidated the past laws and introduced a uniform reference book, a DOM bus, which blacks had to carry at all times.
96 pages of it. The first section A of it simply recorded what your name is, what your tribe is, and where you came from. The whole purpose being that if you are kicked out of the city where you are, you would have to be returned to the ethnic group where you come from. If you are your surname tells us that you are a Zulu, and you lose your job in town, you would have to return to Zululand. If you are a Xhosa, you return to Xhosaland. If you are a Motswana, and that was the whole idea of recording your tribe, where you come from.
After democracy, these discriminatory laws were repealed, granting citizens equal rights to free movement as they found ways to eke out a living. This phenomenon became more apparent in Johannesburg, with the entire Gauteng province having the highest proportion of its population born in other provinces or outside the country. With its history of gold and diamond mining industries, Johannesburg has always attracted migrants. With this came challenges, as people struggled to find suitable accommodation closer to economic opportunities, and evictions became the order of the day.
We need affordable housing in the inner city. We won't go to Soweto. People are next to jobs. People are recycling here. We demand water and electricity. We have a right to access to those basic services.
We are perpetuating the apartheid special planning, which says only people with certain means are able or are permitted to live in town. And those who cannot even afford 2 rands to buy potato, we don't need them. They are a nuisance. We cannot have a country like that. But nevertheless, our law is clear that the process of relocating people must firstly be humane. It must not come at the risk of destabilizing people's lives. Now, what about the children who have been attending school in the city center? What about someone who's already been dependent in selling maybe next to the taxi rank or places where they're able to make a living? It cannot be fair under any circumstances.
While the government has established a social housing scheme to subsidize working residents with low incomes, many others in the informal market remain excluded. Besides evictions, occupiers face hazardous conditions, living in unsafe spaces whose owners are not always known. But the issues came to a head in 2011 when 86 poor people faced eviction. They had unlawfully occupied an old and dilapidated building owned by Blue Moonlight Properties.
The municipality was the city of Johannesburg saying that no, we do not have an obligation to provide alternative accommodation because these people are being evicted from private property, from private land, by a private owner. So we do not have an obligation. But the court agreed with the occupiers to say that no. The Constitution, Section 26(3) of the Constitution, binds the municipality, whether or not the eviction is at the hands of the private owner in a private property or the state, to provide alternative accommodation to those people who will find themselves being displaced or being rendered homeless.
2 years after the Blue Moonlight case, Siyabonga Mahlangu started an organization to challenge their evictions and poor living conditions.
Inner City Federation, it's a group of the inner city residents. It was started in mid-2015 because there was the reason of accessing the basic services from the city. There was a problem about that. And then we said, okay, it's fine, as the residents, let us liaise directly with the COJ without going to court. We're having that mentality. If they can engage directly with us, maybe we can achieve something, of which we're having a wrong attitude on that. And then we started engaging with them. We failed. We started going out to seek for legal advice if we communicate with them directly what should be done if they don't comply with our proposals. Mostly we fight against the city of Johannesburg in terms of access to basic services, because the city of Johannesburg, they've got this tendency of disconnecting the basic services from the building unlawfully without following a proper procedure of disconnecting basic services from a certain communities. So we've been taking them to court several times. The court will hear our case and their case. Sometimes they will defend, sometimes they won't. But in most cases whereby they defend, we got the order against them and say, the court will say, go and reconnect. You've got a constitutional obligation to provide services to these people.
As at 2023, while the state says it has provided 5 million houses nationally, the Department of Human Settlements also says the National Housing Needs Register has nearly 2.5 million registered people awaiting housing assistance. The city of Johannesburg's housing backlog sits at just over 400,000. Through its revitalization plans, such as the Joburg 2030 and the Integrated Development Plan, the city of Johannesburg promises an aggressive clean-up, with different ANC and DA governments having taken different postures to evictions. Between 2010 and 2017, evictions rapidly increased and became more aggressive during the tenure of the then DA Mayor Herman Mashaba. Various inner city residents and other informal settlements faced the violent onslaught of the Red Ants, who also damaged their property in the process.
I would like to see the city of Johannesburg performing their constitutional duties that they have when it comes to communities in terms of providing access to basic services, access to adequate housing. They should work together with the communities and try to improve the standard of living in those buildings, because there is nothing that stops them to go into those buildings and assist the people that are residing within those buildings. To be poor in South Africa, it's a criminal offense. They will walk around criminalizing the poor people. So for me, there is no freedom in South Africa for poor people. If you are poor, I can assure you, even in some certain offices, they don't take you serious.